Hey, tennis player, you, Brianna. Hi. I hear that you guys are having an amazing afternoon, so congratulations to you. Okay, so I'm going to quick pop through this and hopefully I give you everything that I gave everyone else. But we're going to look at 34 and 35, 1934 and 35. So 33 was a really big year. Hitler comes to power. Um, a lot of changes are taking place. And so those changes are adjusting, and the world is adjusting around those changes, and more camps are being built, and there's just a lot going on. So, with that, the Night of the Long Knives is what this particular event was called. It's also called the Rome Affair, but for the most part, it's the Night of the Long Knives, is how you would see it in most references. So it happens June 30th. It takes more than just one night, but June 30th, essentially for the next few days, is kind of what's going on. 1934. Hitler actually orders a purge of the top leadership of the Nazi Party paramilitary, the SA. Those are the brown shirts, right? And so we saw them in the movie, um, the movie Hitler: Rise of Evil. Okay, so the SA, the Sturmabteilungen, okay, I don't say that very well. Anyway, the stormtroopers, they are an assault detachment, meaning that they would go out and assault people. Like they could go out with a force and attack people or attack other organizations or attack other militaries. Okay. So Hitler would order the SS to murder the SA chief. So Hitler wanted to get rid of the SA and he wanted to replace them with the SS. That's what was going on. And so he wanted to get rid of the SA chief, Ernst Röhm. And we saw that in the movie, if you happened to be here that day. We saw that in the movie Hitler: Rise of Evil. So the SS also murdered General Kurt von Schleicher, and his character, his person was represented in that movie as well. And he was the chancellor before Hitler. And so Hitler was threatened by him because he thought that if something went wrong, maybe people would turn to Schleicher, von Schleicher. So Hitler, after like Schleicher's dead and Rome's dead, he actually goes to the Reichstag, which is their Congress, right? Their assembly, their legislative body. And he has them pass a law saying that their deaths were legal because they were a threat to the government. And so that's how that came about. So that's the Night of the Long Knives. And what's not on here is that at this particular time, like 500 people get killed. Like it's a big deal. So the leadership and throughout this organization gets taken out. So and across other leadership as well, but it's crazy. The Night of the Long Knives is what it was called. So Rome, why was he killed? Ernst Röhm was getting in Hitler's way. Hitler wanted absolute power, meaning whatever he wants, he gets. Rome wanted the SA to be, so Ernst Röhm wanted the SA to be incorporated into the country's military. All right. The Wehrmacht. Wehrmacht is the military of the Nazi government. Now, don't get that confused. And remember, W's are like V's. Wehrmacht. So the Wehrmacht is the German army for the Nazis. It was replacing the Reichswehr. Reich is like the rule and then military, the ruling military. And so the Reichstag is home for the Weimar Republic's General Assembly. Okay. And the Weimar Republic got established after World War I. So after World War I, Germany had established a democratic government. And with that government, then they were able to have a limited military, but a military, and that was called the Reichswehr. And so when Hitler comes to power, he wants to replace the Weimar Republic's military with his own. And so they create the Wehrmacht, which would be the Nazi military. And Rome wanted the SA to be in that. but the Wehrmacht leadership didn't. They thought that that would contaminate the ranks of the Wehrmacht. So that was like that conflict played a huge role in this. So why was Schleicher killed? And it really was that Röhm and Schleicher, they were close. Sorry for, it should be were, not was. Schleicher was replaced as chancellor by Hitler, which I've already stated, and he was just seen as a threat. You know, he was an important figure in Germany at the time, and so they needed him gone, and so they killed him. So this is Paul von Hindenburg, and he was also represented in that movie, and they did a decent job as far as creating his character. Reich, again, the rule, Reich. President Paul von Hindenburg, he's going to die in 1934. With the help of the German military, Hitler will become the president. Okay, so later that month, he actually abolishes the office of the presidency, and then he will declare himself the Führer, the leader, you know, mein Führer, my leader, for the German Reich. And that will pretty much give him the ultimate power of dictatorship, dictatorial power, should we say. So he can do anything he wants. At this particular time, when he becomes the Führer, he can literally do anything he wants. So then there's the Jehovah's Witnesses. In 1935, April 1935, the Jehovah's Witnesses they only give their oath to God. So they would not serve in the military. They don't belong to political parties. They don't vote. I mean, nothing in that kind of a situation. So they would not participate in what Hitler wanted them to do. So they wouldn't heil, they wouldn't join the military, they wouldn't swear allegiance to the Nazis, they wouldn't do any of it. And so they were often targeted. So if there was a requirement that they were supposed to follow, if they didn't follow it, then they could be put in prison or concentration camp. Excuse me. So in 1936, there were 400 Jehovah's Witnesses imprisoned at Sachsenhausen, which is one concentration camp. And this is a family that belonged to the Jehovah's Witness church, and they would be imprisoned. Now, okay, so when we look at this, I just wanted you to see where Sachsenhausen was. So in relation to Europe, you can see where Germany falls, and then you can see where Berlin is. And then when you look to the map on the left, you can see where Berlin is, and then Sachsenhausen is just north, and then just north of that is Ravensbrück. Now, Ravensbrück is a female concentration camp, and we'll learn more about that later. But so there's Sachsenhausen, Ravensbrück, Neuengamme, and Bergen-Belsen. And Bergen-Belsen is where Anne Frank happened to die. So approximately 1,400 Jehovah's Witnesses were killed in camps during the Holocaust. And these are just some pictures from Sachsenhausen. So you can actually see like that these guys are marching in front of this building. You can see how that looks that way. And then these prisoners are digging a ditch, and I don't know what for. And when you look at the uniforms or striped pajamas or whatever you want to call what they're wearing, they just have a triangle. It's not the Star of David. So that tells me that they're not Jewish. However, we can't tell the color, so we don't know why they're in. But you see that they do have a number, and they do have a triangle. So whether or not they're homosexuals or Jehovah's Witnesses or political prisoners, it's hard to tell without the color being there. So Nuremberg race laws. This is a big deal. The Nuremberg laws. Please, 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 Brianna, this is a big deal. The Nuremberg laws of 1935 are huge. There's two pieces to it: the Reich citizenship law and the law for the protection of German blood and German honor. These were passed by the Reichstag, and they're referenced in nearly everything. So I really want you to like process it. The Nuremberg grace laws. This sign says, Jews, you are not wanted. Okay, so anyway, the sign says that Jews, you are not wanted. Juden means Jew. So the law identified a Jew as someone with 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents. It didn't matter if their grandparents had converted or not. However, that wasn't a hard and fast thing. Like there were people who like skirted the system, but that was the rule. Anyway, so you could still be defined as a Jew even if you had converted. All right. So the Reich citizenship law, that requires that all citizens have German blood. So if you were Jewish, you were not a citizen. You couldn't vote. You were stateless, meaning you didn't have a passport. You couldn't have a visa. You didn't have the state's permission to leave anywhere. So that was hard. That doesn't mean people didn't leave, because people got fake documents and they did leave. Things weren't like where we have everything in computer. People had, paperwork, and so paperwork was easier to fake. So some of that did happen. So then the law for the protection of German blood and honor, purity of German blood is essential. Therefore, okay, so marriage between a Jew and a German was forbidden. If someone would happen to get married, it wasn't valid. Annulments, so like the state could end the marriage, say that it never happened. Extramarital relations, sex out of your marriage between a Jew and a German was forbidden. German women couldn't be hired by a Jewish family, so unless they were older, because they didn't want, outside of the childbearing years, they didn't want some Jewish man to impregnate a German woman and then bring into the world a child that wasn't pure. Jews are forbidden to fly the Reich flag. We can say, would they want to? No, but maybe for camouflaging purposes, they would. Anyone who violates the marriage law will be imprisoned. And there were people who were married or had extramarital affairs that ended up in concentration camps. Okay, so this picture shows like what might happen. This actually was taken in 1933 before the Nuremberg laws. Okay, so to the right is Oscar Donkner, a Jewish businessman, and to the left is Adele Edelman. She's Christian. They actually had an affair. I don't know if it was extramarital, but they had an affair. And then they had to stand in public with the essay. This would have been before the Night of the Long Knives. Based on the coloring of things and the sheen, I'm guessing they're the essay. But so the essay is standing around him, and the man, Oscar Donkner, his sign says, "As a Jew boy, I always invite only German girls up to my room." And then her sign says, "I am the biggest sow in town and only have dealings with Jews." And they had to stand there. So there was a lot to public humiliation and peer pressure and those kind of things. Okay, so the first regulation to the Reich citizenship law: a Jew cannot be a citizen of the Reich. They can't. You can't vote. You can't occupy public office. To the right is the document that states all this. To the left is a Reich pass. So you had to carry like this passport to prove different things. Now, was it always called upon? No, but they existed. And when you look at this particular one, you can see that there's a red J on that. And the red J stands for Jew. And that was a marking that identified someone as a Jewish person in their Deutsche Reich pass. Okay. So Article 5 identifies who's a Jew, or defines who's a Jew and who's not a Jew. And it essentially, I'll show you one in a second. here, I guess, no. So when you look at this chart, you can see that this is kind of a picture version of what was just being said in the Article 5. Up across the top, it basically says who's a Jew and who's not. And then it tries to use variations of colors to identify it. So right across the top of the first couple there, they're both not Jewish. Then you've got a really dark, like two black figures there, and they are Jewish. And then you've got kind of grayed out people. And so those are of mixed blood. So Jews and non-Jews they're called Mischlings. So again, when you move down the chart, if you have four Gentile or German grandparents, then you're just not a Jew, period. If you have four Jewish grandparents, you are a full Jew, period. And when you get to the other side, up on the top right, so if you've got three Jewish grandparents, you are also considered a Jew. Now, the next two levels where it's mixed, that's where you can see, although it's not clear, that they say Mischling in second degree and Mischling in first degree. So a Mischling in first degree means that you have two Jewish grandparents. A Mischling in second degree means that you have one. Okay, so this is how they actually identified people. And that was by law, the Nuremberg laws. And this is the same information, just in different visuals are being used. All right, so at that point, then we stopped. I told them a little story about something that someone that I know, and then we were good to go. And we started the movie about 10, 15 minutes. We're into the movie Race. So if you come back tomorrow, then you'll just come in. So you'll be okay. All right. So anyway, congratulations. I am so excited for all of you. And I will let you go, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. And if I don't, well, then I will figure out how you can watch the movie. So you have a great night. Enjoy one another. Smile a lot, and we'll see you when we do. So bye.